she had caught feelings for him and he probably either rejected her or their relationship crossed the line.
She was pregnant and she just had her fourth baby. That's when I'm feeling my most horny.
Also, this is one of the most common tropes of an abuser. Again, she was obsessed with me.
Yeah.
She fell in love with me.
Revenge.
She wouldn't leave me alone. Hello and welcome to Mamamia Out Loud. It's what women are actually talking about on Wednesday, the 29th of January. I'm Holly Wainwright.
I'm Mia Freedman.
And I'm Jessie Stevens. And you might have seen, if you do not follow Mamamia Out Loud on Instagram, well, you're very silly because it's a lot of fun. I have been sharing, it's me, silly photos.
We've ramped up our social game
We have.
in 2025.
I've been
thanks to you.
sharing silly photos from the 2024 live show, never before seen. Holly Wainwright apparently wins. Everyone's obsessed.
Well, that's because I was Beyonce.
You were Beyonce.
I wasn't literally Beyonce, but we in our dress up section, I was dressed in the single ladies outfit.
Exactly.
I'm not getting enough attention for my jeté in my tutu.
Yes.
As I said, Mia had never been more Mia because she got to be both a Taylor Swift cheerleader and a ballerina. So if you don't know what we're talking about, go and look on our Instagram. And if you want to see stuff like this, there is only one way to see our silly videos.
Because who knows what we're going to be doing this year. We're topping it.
Exactly. Mamamia Out Loud Live 2025, presented by Nivea Cellular. For tickets, head to outloudlive.com.au or you can check our show notes.
But back in our civilian clothes on the show today, we are in the middle of Act 2 of the rolling Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni drama. And our goldfish tendencies are showing, Jessie Stevens explains. Also, the neggy dating advice you should almost certainly ignore and the straight yet chaotic line between Jerry Springer and MAFS.
Hey, Blake. It is 2 a.m. Hopefully this does not wake you up. Wow, there's so much I want to say to you, and I hope that we can FaceTime or see each other in person. I want to start with an apology. I'm really sorry.
Leaked footage, a 2 a.m. 7-minute voice note, Ryan Reynolds' involvement and a bizarre theory. We have entered the next act in the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni epic, and I, for one, hate it here. It all started with It Ends With Us. That was released in August of last year. We know there was friction on set and with the promotion of the film. Then, December 20 last year, we jumped on Emergency Meeting. You might remember Blake Lively.
Seems like a long time ago.
It does.
Like a lifetime
ago.
ago.
It really wasn't.
She filed a complaint followed by a lawsuit against Justin Baldoni. It alleged sexual harassment and an orchestrated smear campaign against her. It was outlined comprehensively in the New York Times. Then, Baldoni filed his own lawsuits. He sued the New York Times for libel, as well as Lively and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, for trying to destroy him. In the $250 million lawsuit, Baldoni claimed that Lively attempted to steal control of the movie and coordinated a strategic and manipulative smear campaign of her own.
Has anyone else tuned out at this point?
Yeah.
I know you have a lot more to go, but I am it seemed like such an amazing story when it broke and she that New York Times piece came out and she filed that civil suit. I've become less and less interested in this story and I've just felt more and more sick about it, and I'm at the point where I almost can't take in any more information.
Yeah, so what's happened in the last week or so is what we will refer to under the subheading of receipts. So it's the receipts that I think have given it extra oxygen. We now have evidence.
Receipts from because hasn't it all been about receipts since last year?
Well, yes, we had the text messages, but now we've got would you like to watch a 10-minute video or would you like the 7-minute voice message? What would you like, Mia? Because I can give it all to you.
And it's also, I know
who's
what
leaking at both of them?
No, I would say it's Baldoni at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
And also I agree with you, Mia. It feels so complicated and discombobulating at this point, but it is all over my feed and it is all over the front of the Daily Mail and it is all over the front of everywhere that suggests that people are still leaning in.
So by mid-January, Baldoni and his production company and a few others file a new lawsuit. This is where I'm getting really lost, but I keep seeing the figure $400 million in damages. And I had to double check this, but is that $500 million?
Almost.
It's nearly half a billion. That just
500.
seems like a lot of money, is all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Baldoni's lawsuit says this is not a case about celebrities sniping at each other in the press. It is a case about two of the most powerful stars in the world deploying their enormous power to steal an entire film right out of the hands of its director and production studio. Look, basically everything Lively claimed about Baldoni. So remember, apparently he talked about his porn addiction. Apparently he entered her trailer when she was breastfeeding. He provides context, doesn't look as bad, and everyone goes, oh, maybe it wasn't, maybe it's just a misunderstanding.
He's just muddying the water, right?
Yeah, unless you're
Chaos theory.
a supporter of him and you go, no, he's just defending himself.
He's setting the record straight.
He's setting the record straight.
Wouldn't you do that in a court, though?
Well, he's doing that in a court too in March 2026.
Yeah. But there are receipts.
That's a long way away.
One of the key complaints was about a dance scene. Do you remember this? So the dance scene, apparently, Lively and Baldoni, no audio in the movie, but it was being filmed as kind of like it would have music over the top, right? Yeah. And what Lively said was that Baldoni said something about how good she smelled and then kissed her all over the neck when he wasn't in character. So what Baldoni's team have done is released all of the footage. You can go watch it on YouTube of what happened, and they're mic'd up and you can hear what happened. And look, his team...
Did you watch it? What do you think? Because I don't want to.
I don't know what I think. Here's what I heard. I heard him say that she smelled nice because she was self-conscious that her fake tan smelled bad. And then I saw them kind of going in and out, and there was a little bit of instruction around them, but he's a director, right?
Yeah.
So it's a bit awkward that he's her employer.
Well, we've been on set, so he's got the power in that moment.
But when you're the actor-director, that line is particularly blurry, right? Because it's like, who told you to kiss me on the neck? Well, I told myself to do it because I'm the director.
And it's not blurry because you've got all the power.
Yeah.
You're not only playing a dominant character, but you are the director.
Yeah.
So you've kind of got to do whatever you want card.
And then I guess in Baldoni's defense, if she is saying yes or going along with it, then was he to know that she was uncomfortable? And that's what people are watching this footage.
But isn't that what sexual harassment is? That it is about someone taking advantage of the power that they have,
I suppose,
in a situation with sexual
I feel like
behaviour.
this case is about determining what sexual harassment is, and also about untangling what the power dynamics were, because Blake Lively is more famous, but Justin Baldoni was the director.
Well, yeah, but his whole counter argument to her is that she was definitely the more powerful one. That's his argument. Now, we have talked before about that's not really true, because it's not like it's just little Justin and his little movie. He had massive billionaire backers on that. It was his company.
Yeah, he was a partner in the studio.
charge,
so not only was he the director, the actor, he also was co-owner of the studio.
But you can't argue with the fact that Blake Lively, almost by association, is a very powerful Hollywood figure because Ryan Reynolds, because of his depth of connection in Hollywood, and and then he brings in, as he does in his complaints, Taylor Swift, a powerful friend. So his argument is this is like he's saying they're the establishment. And they're after me.
There's something called DAVO, which stands for Deny, Attack, Reverse, Victim and Offender, right? So she accused him of sexual harassment. He's straight away done all of these things and said he's actually really the victim here of Blake and her powerful friends.
Yeah. And she says, and she's said exactly as you're saying, Mia, she said this is 100% out of the abuser's playbook. And there's a lot about this that does feel like that to me. Like one of the things that's happened today is there's this big transcript of this voicemail he left her at 3 a.m. on a Thursday or whatever after she'd said some things to him. And he was like, I'm so sorry, I'm not perfect, but I'm willing to apologize and learn and all these things. And so many women hear those kind of words and have almost a visceral reaction to having been on the other end of that.
So people who saw that 10-minute clip, some women who saw it said, yeah, she looks uncomfortable, and that levity or her joking is an attempt to lighten the mood because she's uncomfortable, right?
And because she's at work.
Yes. Then there's a 7-minute voice note, which you're talking about, Holly, sent at 2 a.m. In the middle of a discussion that we have a little bit of context for. So you might have seen, have you seen the Game of Thrones text message?
I've heard about
No.
Khaleesi, but I
Okay.
don't watch Game of Thrones, so the references are a little bit lost on me.
All right.
But to me, this is getting so petty. I know that's why
Yeah.
everyone's excited about it. The way that you'd behave if you were Baldoni and innocent is the way that you would also behave if you were Baldoni and smearing her. And
Yes.
that's what's confusing, right?
Yeah.
Because it seems like we're getting dragged into this debate about power and all of those things. And in fact, I was having a conversation with someone on the weekend, a woman who said, I just don't understand how you can sexually harass someone who's more powerful than you, meaning how can it even be sexual harassment, by Baldoni since Blake Lively was so powerful? And I was really shocked by that. Firstly, the belief that you can't be sexually harassed if you've got power. And secondly, the idea that she had all the power.
The other thing I keep thinking with all of these leaks, whether it's a text message or an audio leak, is how the internet does such a good job of stripping everything of context and how context is absolutely everything. So we know that there was this text message about Game of Thrones. She referred to herself as Khaleesi, basically that she has these dragons. What she was trying to say was that Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds are on her team and they are a formidable force.
Yeah.
They are, creative giants, and I'm so lucky to have these people support me. Then he sends this big message apologizing for, we don't know what. We have no idea what's even going on anymore.
But if he sent a long text message apologising, surely he's apologising for something. What I don't understand is it just feels very, very reminiscent of Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, where I've been shocked at how eager everybody is to turn on her again.
Exactly. I remember when we talked about this when we came back after Christmas. Jessie, you said people have only got the capacity to change their minds about somebody once. And you were saying that in reference to the fact that everybody was very quick to jump into the Blake Lively mean girl dynamic, idea. We were all like, yes. Well, not when I say we weren't, but the culture was like, yes, love that. Always thought there's something dodgy about her.
Do you mean the first time around?
Yeah, the first time around, right?
Yeah.
And then when that New York Times piece came out, I saw people on the internet who had roundly criticised Lively suddenly saying, oh, my God, I can't believe it. We were wrong. We were played. This is terrible, da-da-da-da. And we were like, okay, everybody's changed their minds. No, everybody's changed their minds again. I am so disheartened. I'm not angry. I'm just disappointed. I'm so disheartened that my feed is full of mostly women, many young, very smart women sitting in front of microphones or sitting in front of green screens pointing at stuff. And it's all telling me again why Blake Lively is a conniving, power-hungry woman who's trying to ruin this man's life. I saw one yesterday I didn't click that was like, Colleen Hoover isn't innocent in all this. This is what she's done now. And it's like, goldfish, we are goldfish. Don't we remember that it was just revealed to us by some of the best journalists in the world that Blake Lively was the subject of a very highly orchestrated, paid campaign of harassment.
Yeah.
And now we're all just like willfully falling into line on it again.
With everything we know about the Me Too movement and this industry, it's interesting how quickly, firstly, we can forget that, you know what, maybe Blake Lively is a mean girl.
Yeah, for sure.
And mean girls can be the victims of sexual harassment
Correct.
too. So there's a thing
Maybe
that
they
we...
hated each other from the get-go and
Yeah.
they're contractually obliged to make this movie together, and it was the most miserable 12 to 18 months of their lives once you threw in the writers' strike and COVID and whatever. And maybe it was awful for both of them. That's true. But if he did the things that she said in that New York Times piece that he did, then he sexually harassed her, whether he likes her or not.
Yeah, and I don't see why she would make this up. I don't.
So-
when you just go to first principles, what is in this for her? She doesn't need the money. What this has done, everyone had sort of forgotten about that before, right? It's brought it all up again. She would have known, they would have known that lawyers would have warned her and she would have understood. This is not her first rodeo. What this is going to bring. Amber Heard, Johnny Depp, she already knows. It's the same people involved, for heaven's sake. And she did it anyway.
So the
Why?
internet has had to, I'm going to say, come up with a theory as to why she's done it. And I say this not because it's one tiny TikTok video I've seen. It is wall to wall, all over my TikTok, all over my YouTube, all over my Instagram. This is a story that exclusively women, I haven't seen any men weighing into this, are telling. Candace Owens, the right-wing commentator in the US, is behind this too.
This has been sent to me too.
The last 24 hours, this is a story, is that Ryan Reynolds was away. He was doing his Deadpool thing. He then comes back. This is a total theory. There is no evidence to support this. That he then sees the voice memos and the text messages between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. The story goes that Blake Lively couldn't help it. She, of course, fell in love with Justin Baldoni. Like she had caught feelings for him and he probably either rejected her or their relationship crossed the line.
She was pregnant and she just had her fourth baby. That's when I'm feeling my most horny.
Also, this is one of the most common tropes of an abuser. Again, she was obsessed with me.
Yeah.
She fell in love with me.
Revenge.
She wouldn't leave me alone.
So then what happens is Ryan Reynolds becomes jealous, controlling and possessive, and then we go back into the history of his relationship with Scarlett Johansson and Alanis Morissette. We won't go down there.
What's that got to do with it?
Mia, that's where we're going.
I blame true crime podcasts. Every single person on the internet thinks they can solve everything.
But then what happens is he gets very jealous and controlling and Blake Lively panics. And women are vengeful liars. Everyone knows that.
We are. Yeah.
And then she just goes, he sexually assaulted me. And I feel very uncomfortable with Justin Baldoni. It was the only way to placate her very controlling husband. And then everything turned. And Justin Baldoni was totally blindsided. He was like, I thought we were friends and we were close.
Which is why he apologised for the thing he supposedly didn't do.
Yes.
It's so absurd. And to me, it's just, this is what happens when a woman stands up to a powerful man in Hollywood. And I just don't buy this whole thing of she was more powerful than him. It's like he had billions behind him. His co-owner in Wayfair, the studio, he is a billionaire. Justin Baldoni may not be as internet famous before as Blake Lively, but he's got money.
And also we need to remember, because I said before, if it's true what he did to her on set, he sexually harassed her. Actually, we don't know whether or not it's true. That's going to court. But what we do know, and he is not disputing, and there is lots and lots of evidence of, is that he did orchestrate a massive smear campaign against her. We've all seen those text messages. They are not really in dispute that he sent a text message that showed Hailey Bieber being branded a terrible person to work with and a mean girl with the words, we need something like this to his team. So we have the evidence that this is not organic. And yet again, we're just like, sure.
But remember his publicist, the crisis manager, there was also text messages from her basically saying the internet's doing our work for us because the internet hates women and we've got all these plans ready to go and we've got all of this campaign money to do this, the dark arts of smear. But guess what? The narrative of Blake Lively being a bitch is just taking off on its own, and it just feels like we're there again.
Australia's favourite Kennedy has gone back home. And, like Grace Tame, it appears that Caroline Kennedy is not there to fuck spiders. Until January, JFK's daughter was living in Canberra as Australia's ambassador to the USA, and we bloody loved her for it. During that time, she stayed dignified and silent about her attention-courting cousin, RFK as he's known, while he ran for president, slammed Donald Trump, then changed his mind, stood down and joined Trump's campaign.
We could do a segment on how everyone has a cousin, Robert.
It's true. This week, he's likely to be confirmed as the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, where he's going to run a program called Make America Healthy Again. There's just one or two little problems with that, Caroline Kennedy says in a scathing letter she wrote and read yesterday. Here's a little bit of what she says.
He lacks any relevant government, financial, management, or medical experience. His views on vaccines are dangerous and willfully misinformed. These facts alone should be disqualifying. But he has personal qualities related to this job, which for me pose even greater concern. I've known Bobby my whole life. We grew up together. It's no surprise that he keeps birds of prey as pets, because Bobby himself is a predator. I watch his younger brothers and cousins follow him down the path of drug addiction. His basement, his garage, his dorm room were always the center of the action, where drugs were available, and he enjoyed showing off how he put baby chickens and mice in a blender to feed to his hawks. It was often a perverse scene of despair, and violence.
Fuck me.
Shots fired. She's only just left Australia as America's ambassador to Australia. And she seemed like a really good time when she was here. She went on like the shitbox rally. She was like no airs and graces. She's a pretty extraordinary woman, and she doesn't talk about her family very much, as she pointed out. And to say that, what's happening at the moment is that there's a system in America where the president nominates all the people that he wants to be in charge of things, and then they have to go before Parliament essentially and argue, and they're questioned about whether they're suitable for the job. And of course, none of them are suitable for the job. And it doesn't matter because they're just all sailing through.
So is it more just a symbolic process?
We're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. So like before, it was not a symbolic process. It was designed to weed out or expose any people who weren't appropriate. But also back then in the before times, only people who were qualified were nominated for these important positions. So we're in completely uncharted waters, and it's basically just, kiss the ring. If Donald Trump wants this guy through, he's going to go. But what's most disturbing to me about this, calling him a predator, also a hypocrite. He's a former drug addict and alcoholic, but that, people can get through that. When she said he's addicted to attention and power, it's like, yep, sounds about right.
Sounds like he'll fit right in with that administration.
She's all class, because what I really admire about this is she kept her powder dry the whole time. And she said, when she was ambassador to Australia, she was in a government position. It wouldn't have been appropriate for her to talk about this. It wouldn't have been appropriate. So it's like, that's how people used to be. That's how character used to work. And now she's in a very well-considered way, just opened fire.
We have a dilemma from a listener who is newly divorced and on the apps. And it goes like this. She writes, I'm interested in your opinion about comfort zones and whether it's okay to want to stay in them. The constant demand on Hinge and Bumble and everywhere else is that men want a woman who is prepared to get out of her comfort zone. There's a lot about being adventurous and keen to go off the beaten path and challenge yourself and embrace the unknown. There's also a widespread conviction that your willingness to get out of your comfort zone reflects how evolved you are as a human being. And she says, my response to all this is that I'm really happy and comfortable in my comfort zone, hence the name. And I can't think of anything I want less in a new partner than some predetermined deal that I will have to constantly and gleefully leap out of my comfort zone at his behest. What is your opinion? Am I just being too old or lazy? Comfort zone living sounds incredibly appealing to me, but does that mean I've been slacking off on the personal growth? Jessie.
Yes, which I reckon isn't just in the dating world. I reckon broadly we're told to do that with career, with our social lives, with our hobbies, with everything. We're told that, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. There are all of those cliches. I would say, though, firstly, this listener is being far too hard on herself. Going on a dating app, dating is outside your comfort zone.
Yes.
You're already doing it. And as someone who is incredibly risk averse, I totally relate. Like, for some people, outside of your comfort zone might be going to a new restaurant. It might be trying a new cocktail, and that is okay. I was reading this theory by like a developmental psychologist who talked about the zone of proximal development. This is what I really like. It's the idea that there's your comfort zone, and then just outside, you put your little toe there. It's how children learn. Children don't go from crawling to jumping off couches. Yeah. They take little steps, and we're allowed to take little steps if we want. So if someone on a dating app is like, I want to take you, for some reason I'm thinking of those obstacle courses in mud. If someone wants to take you on Tough Mudder, I want to do that. I think this is a really great way for us to learn that we're not compatible. Go find the person who likes to watch the things on the TV.
So what's the difference, Holly, between just not liking something and being out of your comfort zone? Camping, for example, hate it, don't want to do it, out of my comfort zone. But also hate it, don't want to do it. Is the implication that if I did it and got out of my comfort zone, then I might enjoy it? Or is the implication that I should get out of my comfort zone and do it because you want to do it and you want me to do it?
I think that comfort zones get a bad rap, as Jessie just said, but you do have to change your settings a little bit. And I mean, like both literally and figuratively in the dating world, because if you just keep going for the same thing over and over again and it's not working, and if you want someone who only likes the things that you like and only wants to do the things you want to do, then and it's not working, then maybe you do have to get out of your comfort zone a bit. And I think that one of the great things about meeting new people and new relationships is that sometimes you try things that you didn't think you liked and you do like them, right? Like
I'm thinking like an entree though, not like an activity.
Yeah, but then if somebody you love, if you fall in love with someone who really likes hiking or football or romantasy or whatever, and they would like you to show an interest in it, it's nice to show an interest in it. Don't knock it before you've tried it. I think that's fair enough. I think closed-minded people are boring as all hell, and just going, I'm never going to do that, I'm never going to try that, is boring. But do you have to constantly be like, I'll do what you like doing, I'll go where you like going, and all of those things? Then no, because depending on your age and your experience, probably a lot of your comfort zone has been crafted from wisdom. Like red flags, for example.
Test and learn.
Test and learn. And you would know what a red flag is in a man who basically wants you to always feel uncertain, unsure, unsafe. Like you want to be if you want to be in a comfort zone in a relationship, that's probably because you've been there and you know your experience, your wisdom is telling you, do not take that risk. So there's risk aversion to like going on a bushwalk, and then there's risk aversion to a guy who you know is just going to keep you on the end of a string and not call you every 3 days or whatever it is, you know.
I think
you've got to listen to your instinct, and that might keep you in your comfort zone.
I think a lot of people don't know what to write on their apps. I don't think they know what tagline to have, and so they just say things like likes adventure.
I think he's actually talking to his former partner, these men. I think that they're talking about, you know, certainly by the time a relationship ends, it's not exciting, it's not fun, it's not surprising, and that goes from everything to what you eat every night to what you do to the sex that you have, quite literally. And I think that, you know, part of the appeal of dating someone new is seeing a new version of yourself reflected back. And I think and I wonder if this is why so many men often want to date younger women, because they are more malleable. Older women, we know through testing and learning, through trial and error, that's what establishes our comfort zone. Our comfort zone might not be boring. Our comfort zone might not be sitting at home on the couch every night watching Netflix. It might be just a word for the things that we know we enjoy, the things that we know nourish us and make us feel good. And so by insisting that someone gets out of that, the benefit of the doubt reading of it is you might try something that you also enjoy, and then your comfort zone gets a little bit wider. But I also know that it can often be a bit of a gaslighting is overused, but a bit of a trick, because there's a big moral implication in there. There's a big moral
that discomfort is always better than comfort.
Correct. And that you're a bit sad. You're a bit of a loser. You're not very fun or exciting. You're a killjoy if you have a stay in your comfort zone. And so I know when I started a job that was an absolute disaster and I should have got the hell out of there, I kept saying to myself, maybe I'm just out of my comfort zone. And maybe this is what it's meant to feel like. And I've also said that to myself in really bad relationships. Maybe this is what love feels like, because it's so dramatic and it doesn't feel good a lot of the time. And it's just not always true.
The phenomenon that is Married at First Sight started up its love machine on Sunday night. And already we have had a groom saying that his bride was not at all what he'd ordered. He wanted someone petite, and that's not what he got. After that nice man kissed his bride, he wiped his mouth in something like disgust. We've also had a groom rejecting his bride because she was too old. She was 37 and he was 35.
Oh, my God.
He specifically requested, Mia, someone younger than him.
And petite.
And a wedding that didn't even make it to the cake cutting because of family dramas when the groom made inappropriate comments to the bridesmaids and the bride's sister decided to throw down about it. Fair to say, the 2025 MAFS contestants understand the assignment. Fighting, insults, drama. Anyway, we don't really want to talk about MAFS so much as we want to talk about the straight line between our obsession with this drama-filled reality TV and a certain former politician from Ohio, USA. Over the summer, I watched the Netflix documentary about the Jerry Springer Show. You did too, Jessie, right?
I did.
I'm sure you lived through the Jerry Springer years, Mia. Have you watched the doco?
Yeah, I love the doco.
Yeah, it was really good. It's called Fights, Camera, Action. And that talk show, in inverted commas, as it became less and less of a talk show as it went on, was an absolute phenomenon of the 90s and noughties. The premise of Springer, in case you don't know or you didn't live through that, was to take what Oprah had turned to gold, which was like daytime talk, confessional TV, like dealing with controversial topics, and turn the drama up to 11. The executive producer was a guy called Richard Dominic, and he was interviewed a lot in this doco, and he said his goal was to make TV you could watch with the sound off. He wanted to continue to push to extremes. He's on record in this doco as saying if he could film someone killing someone, he would.
I thought that was so interesting and such an interesting way of putting it, the thing about watching it with the sound off. And what he was saying is if you were flicking through the channels, you would see something physically so surprising, like guests throwing chairs and punching each other, that you would have to stop and go, what is happening here?
Which it's probably worth remembering that the Jerry Springer moment was sort of corresponded with in Australia, the Foxtel moment, which was we had more channels than ever before. So
More
you
choice?
would flick, you had more choice. So you would flick. I remember this as a kid. Flick through dozens and dozens of channels. And so the market forces required content that was thumb stopping.
Stopped your thumb.
Yeah.
He had this team of young producers, some of whom were interviewed in this doco too, and they say they'd sourced their guests from what they came to call the Springer Triangle, areas of geographical disadvantage in the US, and then they'd prime them for maximum drama, preferably violence. They'd fly them in and treat them like kings, driving them around in stretch limos, free bar tab all night, and then before the shows would actually go on, they would rile them up, tell them all the awful things that their sister, girlfriend, whatever had done, shit talk them and like really rile them up to 11 before they basically throw them out onto the stage. There would be punishments if they didn't perform, these people who'd gone on the show, like No Flight Home for You, Completely Cut Loose. A sample of the show's titles of the time included I Married a Horse. That was a very highbrow one, in which a man kisses his horsewife on the telly. 3 Pigs in a Trailer about obese trailer mates gorging on junk food. Married to Your Dad, But I Want You Back. That's quite tame compared to some of them, and a lot of cheating and a fair sprinkling of what now would be termed just deeply offensive
there were
gender
a lot of
reveals.
incest stories.
Yeah. And lots of like, your girlfriend's really a man and all that kind of thing. And everybody loved it. The show, which was always slammed by the media and called the worst thing on telly, was originally thought to have no chance of ever catching Oprah in the ratings. It went and went and went until it stole her crown in the late 90s. By then, she had kind of pivoted. She famously said she thought that the Springer Show was disgusting, and she kind of pivoted to like self-help and the celebrity interviews and what kind of became a much more sort of respectable version of talk show telly. But meanwhile, the ratings of Springer emboldened the show to push harder. They were like, this is what people want. The producers of the show said this over and over in the documentary. Look at how many people want this. Who are we not to give them what they want? One of the producers on the show talks about how he quit after he was involved in producing a story about a young sex worker whose father was one of her regular clients. Oh, that's so awful. Anyway, Springer blew itself out, although it has actually remained on air till about 2018, but its relevance was really over by then. The fighting became predictable, and we like to think that the culture moved past it, but did we really? At the end of the Springer doco, there's a montage of fighting footage from contemporary shows like The Kardashians, Love Island, The Real Housewives of all the various places that The Real Housewives are from, and of course MAFS, which is an international hit. The Australian version of MAFS is really big in England and other places. Now, recent world events might suggest that people also want this level of sound-off drama from their politics, from their leaders. Populism is exactly about giving people what they want, whether it's possible, whether it's sensible, and whether it's good for them or the world. I want to know, do we think it's possible that MAFS is a symptom of the end of civilization? Jessie Stevens.
There is something ubiquitous about this that Jerry Springer didn't invent. So they talk about this in the documentary, like the gladiator complex of ancient Rome where you went and watched men fight. I mean, that's...
And die.
There is clearly base
Public
human...
executions.
base human instincts about seeing humans behave badly. And even I was thinking about the prurient... We've got this fascination with other people's sex lives that has existed since human beings have existed. And even Marie Antoinette, that's when the tabloids sort of started, was around at French Revolution. And the things that were written about Marie Antoinette, there were allegations of incest, of orgies, of all of those things. When we didn't see them, we made them up. So there is something innate within human beings that loves this shit. But I think what happened with Jerry Springer is that it proved that if you behaved badly enough, then people would pay attention. And the other thing it was engaging with were the market forces of how do we get the highest ratings by spending the least amount of money. And I don't think you can look at this without following the money, because you didn't have to pay these people. So you could get these remarkable ratings. If it's Days of Our Lives or if it's something fictional, you've got to pay the actors, you've got to pay the people writing scripts. Here you had to pay some producers. But these people, you just put them in a hotel room. Same with Married at First Sight. They're not paid very well. It's just you throw them in a room, and one might argue, well, and they try and argue this, Jerry Springer tried to argue it, that do we just want to see humans at their best, at their most idealised, or do we want to see our ugliest, most violent, most sexually depraved sides as well? Like, this is real too.
Is it exploitative, do you think?
Yes, because when these shows aren't a mirror. These shows, I was reading this analysis in the New York Times that said Jerry Springer wasn't a ringmaster, he was a tutor. You were teaching these people how to behave. And that was the same with Married at First Sight.
What do you mean?
You don't just put people in a room and press the camera and start rolling. What you do is you choose people very specifically based on their personality.
And you hype them up.
And you give them too much alcohol.
Yeah.
And you hype them up and you put them in high-pressure situations.
And you mismatch them. So if they ask for a younger petite woman, you give them a woman of a similar age to them who may not be petite.
Yes. So that's the exploitative part to me, is that you are orchestrating this so that people behave worse and worse, because we know that how arousal and interest works is that every season needs to be worse than the last. So I just heard what you read out, Holly. I'm not watching this season. And I just went, oh, they've done that before. Yeah. Like every time they find someone.
Oh, and there's no doubt. I mean, it's only been on for 3 nights, so we should give them a little bit of time. But there's no doubts we've had violence. We've had people throwing things at each other, all those things on MAFS. And lots of people say they don't watch for the drama, they watch for the love. But we watch for the drama, right?
Yeah. You can even tell from the way that they cut the trailers and stuff. And I also thought, actually, when I was watching the Jerry Springer documentary, you can also draw a straight line, yes, to MAFS, but also to OnlyFans. So there were titles that were like, I slept with 251 men in 10 hours. That's now just an OnlyFans.
That's Bonnie Blue.
But this was also a little bit saturation of porn.
Yeah.
So, you know, there were the line, God knows how they got away with it really on commercial television, but the line of the sex content, it was almost before you could see all that at the click of a button at any time.
Yeah, the bestiality one was tricky, and it's a line that TV networks and advertisers had to walk very carefully, because just because something is very popular, does that mean what kind of responsibility do you have to give people what they want or not give people what they want? Do we agree as a society that perhaps bestiality and incest is best not packaged into entertainment with ads sold around it and put on in the middle of the day? And it blew up a lot of those ideas. And of course, now you can get anything on the internet. So you're right, it was pre-internet. And it almost seemed shocking and quaint, like watching it back. And I don't watch MAFS, but you know, I've been reading the recaps on Mamamia, so I stay across it, broad brushstrokes. And what, to me, the comparison between Oprah and Jerry Springer is like The Bachelor and MAFS. It's like it's the same genre, but the volume is turned up to 11. Would that be right?
Yeah, although Oprah in her early days was more Springery, definitely. I have a very clear memory of seeing Ku Klux Klan members on Oprah Winfrey's show, right? And I was young, obviously, and there was shouting and I feel like then Springer took the format and, as we say, turned it up to 11. And then I think Oprah quite legitimately was like, what have I done? Almost. And she began
Stop
to really...
1 second, you mean Phil Donahue, not Dr. Phil?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
That's right.
Phil Donahue's show and a few others that were of that genre. And they were all taking that format and evolving it. And I think that Oprah quite genuinely got really sick about it, and she pivoted, and many people think, and she built another empire on that. I mean, she was obviously a smart enough woman to wherever she pivoted to, it was going to work, because then she became the self-help guru and she became Oprah, right? The thing that I wrestle with is the populism of it all, because I'm on record as saying I don't like MAFS, I don't watch MAFS. I find it icky. Like, I don't like watching people fighting. When I was watching Springer, and I used to feel this when I did actually watch it as a young person, I always felt like I was only getting a tiny bit of the story, and I wanted more. Like, why are these people like this? What has happened to them? And you would always find out, if you ever did dig, there was always drug addiction involved. There were all kinds of things going on. And I found it unsatisfying and distasteful. But it feels very finger-wag, like my view of MAFS and Love Island, all those shows, which is like, feels very snobby and finger-waggy in a way, because people do absolutely love it. And people's relationships are chaotic, and people do cheat on people. And there is a horrible guy who's going to neg you about your weight. There is, I mean, so I guess the thing I wrestle with is the fact that this stuff is the most popular stuff on TV, and that we seem to be really leaning in, maybe now culturally more than ever, to our darker instincts in all kinds of areas. What do you do with that? Because just saying you shouldn't watch it, it's gross, isn't right.
I don't put it on the audience in that way. But I do think that as people who make television, one consideration would probably be, is this human interest? Because you can make a great documentary. You can do a great interview and challenge people on their beliefs. But am I making, and I mean this word in the 19th, 20th century form of, am I making the freak show? Like the show that used to exist where you would have someone who was really tall and really short and almost like a circus.
But aren't we just drawn to watching extremes? And as you said, Jessie, that's how arousal works. It's like you need more and more extremes to stay interested, either sexually, but also just with your attention.
I think so, but then that's where it starts to feel exploitative. And that's where, when I see Jerry Springer and maybe some elements of reality TV, you go, oh, okay, this is literally the 19th century, us sitting there and laughing at people that are different to us. Like, that doesn't make anyone feel good.
Out loud as goodness me, that was a big show. We covered a lot of ground.
We did.
Thank you if you're still with us. Thank you for always being here with us. And of course, thank you to our fabulous team for putting the show together. We're going to be back in your ears tomorrow as always.